We are officially live for the first time ever. Fake show fucking collar boy. Fake show fucking collar boy. For the first time ever on the Golf Betting Network. The Golf with an A. A whole bunch of A's. Throw a W in there if you want, like Rob Edwards in the chat. For this first time ever on the Golf Betting Network, we are live. We are big live right now. I see some chats coming through. I don't think I've hooked up through Streamlabs the chat for this channel. I've got it hooked up for the main channel, but I don't think it's going to come through in this channel. The chat on stream, that is. I could probably do it real quick, though. Let's go up Streamlabs OBS in the background. What's going on, everybody? We're going to be live for the next hour or so. We got a whole bunch of people up in the chat early already. Early. Excited for the Golf Betting. But Golf Betting Network's got over 50 people live right now. People tuning in. More views and subscribers these days on this channel. I appreciate you all the time. What's up, everybody? Tayshawn in the chat. We got everybody up in the chat. Yeah. I'm going to connect the YouTube. I'm going to get the chat on the screen. Don't you worry about it. It's coming. It's coming not now, but it's coming right now. Smack the like button. Justin, what's up, boss man? How you doing, man? Says, Big Sal. Hope all is well, man. Good luck this week. Best of luck to you as well. I'm excited. I'm excited that we get the first golf week, the last week of the NFL season. So it's kind of like the NFL is all up in chaos in terms of who's actually going to play, how long are they going to play, do they even want to play, right? All this stuff. And we just get 38 golfers now in this field ready to rock and ready to roll. So that's fun. This is an interesting slate. I'm going to pull up the chat box right now and let's get it going. So let's get some of these questions out. So earlier we had people saying they don't let's do this. Let's pull up this bad boy. We're going to DraftKings little lineup up there. We'll build a lineup on stream later on. Why not? We can look at the top of the board as we see it right now. Let's pull up the chat box widget. Let's do some of this. Let's just get it up in there for now. Save settings. Copy the link. And this should pull up the chat if I do this correctly. And then I'm going to have to change it for the chat on another day. Alrighty. Golf is back. Golf. Yo, Sal, thanks for going live today. No problem, Jacob. He says, how difficult is this course? I saw you say that the winner will likely be somewhere around 20 under, but for some reason I thought this would be a lower scoring match. Well, it's a resort course, so it's going to be pretty damn easy. I mean, the distance, and maybe you've heard somewhere somebody say lower scoring, and there you go. We're able to get the lovely chat to pop up on screen. I'll put it coming up a little bit quicker. But maybe you saw somewhere that this was going to be lower scoring, and if you don't listen to content often, lower scoring literally means like lower. Like lower, like they're going to go under par more. So like if you're listening to somebody else's content and they're saying like, oh yeah, they're going to go really low. Like they're going to be going low on this course. It means that they're actually going to score lower. Like they're going to go under par more. So that's just what that means if there was confusion there. Lower doesn't mean like normally when you think like, oh, 1 or 2, it means like it's going to go low. Like they're going to shoot pretty damn low, each of these golfers. They're going to shoot, winners are going to be 20 under, 22 under, right? So that's what that means. I think it's going to be a very easy course. It's a resort course. It is long, but it's a par 73, so it's kind of not really long, right? Like you're getting an extra 400 something yards on the additional par 4 that'll be on this course, 400 yards or so. So I mean, normally like 7,200 yard course isn't going to be that daunting on a par 72, right? Or even smaller for a par 71. So yeah, it's a par 73, so it's deceiving. It's got a lot of hills. You can have rolls. As long as the wind's not picking up in a crazy fashion, you should be good. You should be good. And I think that's what we're probably going to find here, in my opinion. So let's pull this back all up into the chat, and we'll get that going. So thank you for the question, Jacob. I think that's a solid question. It is a solid question. But, yeah, should be a lot of birdies. Teach me the game, Ghost, says Tayshawn. What up, boss man? Teach you the game. Yeah, so if you have any specific questions, let me know. Heard rumor ESPN doing something different with golf this season. Yeah. They signed a big deal. ESPN Plus is going to have golf. They signed a deal. There's supposed to be a lot more coverage. They're supposed to have not only an additional featured group, but they're also going to have featured holes. So just more golf we'll be able to see. Still not going to see the whole entire event of every single person shot just yet, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. Definitely a step in the right direction. So leverage. Let's talk leverage, because I put out some tweets that we can reference here, and these tweets that I put out are specific to this fucking event. So to start, I mean, these are the final top owned golfers, right? Based on my ownership projections on Patreon. And then we'll talk, and I said like for the top 3 GPP plays, which I already posted those because the motherfuckers liked it. They did what they had to do. And some other chats coming in, a lot of people. Yeah, any questions, get them in here. If you've never done Golf DFS, it will hook you. It sure will. Especially when you get a cut event, right? Like the Sony next week. When we start to get a cut event, it definitely will. Any ownership available on Patreon, says Keegan White. Yes, sir. There's ownership for this event on Patreon. It is in the PGA Golf DFS Tools. It is in column O on the Golf Tools, column O. Yes, sir. These are the top 3 based on my ownership. Sal blowing up in 2022. Zachary, you're too kind. I hope so. And by blowing up, I mean it just means be able to have a business at the end of the year. But in terms of ownership, these 3 players right here, neither of them are in my single entry lineup. You can play them. Total lineup ownership is a thing. So one individually high owned player who is mispriced, like I would argue. I would argue Berger is the only massively mispriced one here. I think that Im is somewhat appropriately priced. If you want to make him 8,800, okay. I think that Burns is appropriately to slightly overpriced relative to Berger and Im and Cam Smith and Patty Reed and Leishman, right? But these guys are going to go over-owned. Berger, for me, is the one that I would be okay playing at chalk the most, but I'm just going to fade all 3 of them. That's just kind of the way that I play DFS personally. I just fade all 3 of them. Is there any $10,000 golfer you feel less confident in rostering? Less confident in rostering. I would say if I had to choose a golfer out of all these guys up top that I feel less confident in rostering, less confident, not really. Like, they all give me pretty damn good confidence. They're all top players in the world. They're all like 10-1 or shorter to win this thing, 12-1. If I had to choose one, I'd probably say Hovland because he's going to be coming in with more ownership. So when you put that pressure on him to come through at that ownership number. But other than that, not really. I mean, I don't know how you're not confident in Rahm or Thomas. Morikawa and Hovland and Thomas, they have worse putters, right? Their putters don't stay as consistently hot as a Jon Rahm or a Bryson. And the funny thing is, Jon Rahm and Bryson are coming in lower owned, which is the funny thing, right? Like, the funny thing about all of this is Jon Rahm and Bryson are coming in lower owned, even though they are the more consistent putters and have more outs to their game, if you will. So it's interesting. And they're coming in lower owned, which I like. I like to see that they're coming in lower owned. What is considered high ownership by Baby Beef? That is a great question. High ownership is relative to that slate. On a 40 or a 38 golfer field like we're going to have here with a no-cut event, high ownership, yeah, you're going to see a lot of dudes above 20% owned. Most weeks, you'll only see a handful of guys, like 1 to 3 to 4 at most guys at 20% or higher owned. So it's all relative to this week. So this week, guys that are approaching 30% ownership, in my opinion, are high owned. So guys that are approaching 30% ownership are some of these guys that I tweeted out about, right? These fellas right here. Other names that are approaching that ownership number are Xander Schauffele or Victor Hovland, or Cam Smith. So those are the guys that are, it's all relative to that slate. And ownership is not always a bad thing. Ownership could be fine. It could be a guy is high owned, but he's also still under owned. It's optimal lineup percentage versus your projected ownership. On this specific slate, on a 38 golfer field where everybody is a winner and a champion, Xander not, but Olympian champion, we'll count it. That's what they're doing here. When you see that on the sponsor's exemption for Xander, when you see that, then yeah, I'm okay to start to get away from guys who a third of the field are going to own, and I feel more confident saying, okay, instead of the entire industry being correct on these 3 or 4 high-owned golfers, and we could identify them as the best values and projected guys, I'm okay to pivot away from some or all of them because golf is extremely random. All it takes is one shot. These dudes have not been golfing for a month, a lot of them, and not seriously competing for multiple months, right? So I'm okay to go to the lower-owned guys. Is it promo code SAL or GOLF for prize picks? For this network, it'll be golf. It all kind of goes to the same place, but just to track it on my end, promo code golf on the Golf Betting Network. You can use, if you're on the other network, you could use the code SAL. But in order for me to track kind of where to allocate dollaruskis for the business, bring on more talent, upgrade equipment, put more resources into content for this channel, understanding that the channel is specifically bringing in dollars for advertisers and our partners, Prize Picks. We signed a whole new deal up until 2023. It's February, so cheers to that, the water. But yes, that is what I would say is to use promo code GOLF. And I appreciate that. If anybody wants to use promo code GOLF, we can definitely go through. I have Prize Picks up here. We can go through some of what they have and take some community props. And then this is the most recent tweet that I put out in terms of the top GPP plays. And a lot of people might take this extremely literal and try and throw all 3 of them into your lineup. That is not the point of this. The point of this is to identify leverage on high ceiling and high projected players that are lower owned. Now, the difference between number 3 on this list and number 4 and 5 is pretty damn close. I think that the difference between number 1 and number 2 and 3 is a large, large difference. So I think that Rahm is the best GPP play in the slate. Oh, but Sal, that's because he's the most expensive. Obviously, he's the best. No, if you saw my video, and I see all the comments coming in, we'll definitely be hitting on them. Don't worry about that. If you saw my video earlier in the week, you're going to see that I was thinking that the public was going to go up towards the top, like Hovland, which they are, but Morikawa, who the last time we saw him, he was playing great up until everybody kind of blew apart on the last day, and Hovland just stuck around. It's JT's up there, right? I figured they would go up towards the top. Bryson is like the poster boy right now for golf media and what fans think of when they think of golf and active golfers who've been out there often. So Brooks, right? So I thought people would go up towards the top, and they're not, and it makes sense once projections come out that people are not going to go up there at all. So yeah, I think that this is where you start to see an optimal versus projected ownership start to sway a little bit. I think that you're going to see Rahm not be 0% owned, but 16, 18% compared to guys around him in that price range being 25% is a pretty damn big difference. What do we got? You still hot on Joel Damon? Yeah, I think Damon's fine. I think he's fine. I think he's going to come in with some of the most ownership in that range, which is not surprising. This range is pretty dog shit. Like, I think that Damon probably comes in the highest owned in this range of guys below $7,000. Homa, Power, those guys will be somewhat close. I would say Damon's fine. Like, it's going to be like 10% ownership for a guy that low. He's fine. Yeah, there's no real strong stances against it. All right. Would you feel comfortable fading the 10K guys in cash and working more towards a 9K and down range? I don't really play cash, so I guess so. Like this slate is just filled with all studs, right? So I personally don't play any cash games, not for any DFS, but definitely not for golf. I think golf slates are equally as volatile, especially when there's a no cut event, equally as volatile as like a DFS football showdown slate, right? Maybe not as volatile as like an NBA showdown slate or during these times of NBA is what I more so mean, and like an MLB. But yeah, golf is really damn volatile. I don't want to be playing cash games for golf, and definitely not in a no-cut event. Like the whole reason you play cash games is you think you can actually beat your opponents because you have an information edge. You're grinding news harder. You can project better. Whereas in golf, the projections are pretty damn wide when finishing position points matter, and that is a one-shot difference. One shot can cause a double bogey instead of a birdie, right? In terms of your approach shot, your second shot off the tee, and now you're totally different projection, totally different finishing position. So projections are going to be handy, especially when you're trying to build more than one lineup or compare golfers against each other. But when it comes down to trying to play a non-volatile format and contest like a GPP or like a cash game, yeah, I'm not going to be going there. I'd be strongly leading to play GPPs. Any strategy for a 3-max core or different lineups? Yeah, so if you follow me, I don't really play. When I play 3-maxes in most sports, I'm not trying to build like a core. Like unless one guy looks like a slam dunk play, and on that slate, this would probably be Rahm looking like the slam dunk play, just factoring in ownership, ceiling, projection, all that. So maybe like a Rahm, but in terms of like getting the same 3 or 4 guys in every lineup, that's just not really for me. Especially on a no-cut event where all the dudes are champions and all the dudes are pretty strong golfers, I'd be probably trying to build 3 different lineups with my goal to have a total lineup ownership of being pretty damn low all over the place. That's how I would go. Excited to get this DFS golf this year, says Sam. Let's get it. Sam, I appreciate that. Thank you. Do you change your build approach with no-cut events, stars, scrubs, balance? To an extent, yeah. I would say to an extent, yes. I want to see if this actually works real quick. I want to see if I have the chat box all up in here, if it's going to come through quicker. I guess we'll see when people start to comment. Works. There you go. Look at that. Any love for Leishman? We love that, Nate. Thank you. So yeah, in terms of no-cut events, yeah, I would say just birdie getters. You're going to prioritize a little bit more. Obviously, it's specific to each individual course and at the end of the day, leverage on the slate. But yeah, birdie makers, which seems like an easy thing to say, but guys who can go low. Like if the winning score is going to be 20 under or 22 under, something along the like, yeah, I want guys who can go low. Kokrak or Leishman, I'll go Kokrak. How much do you factor apex height into the model? Apex height into the model? Not much. Not much personally. Specifically that statistic, not. But if you want to like factor it into off the tee, like strokes gained off the tee, and to an extent accuracy, fairways hit, that type of thing, then yeah, that's factored in. Do golf slates always change time? I feel like when I initially made my lineup, it started at like 4 a.m. Most golf contests do start Eastern time around 5 to 7 to 8 a.m. But since they're in Hawaii, this is a bit of a time difference, so you're going to definitely see a difference there. Dollar Whiskeys is one of my favorite new words. Thanks to your pods. We love to hear that, Joshua. My wife doesn't like it when I say it. We make love, but otherwise well received. Attaboy. Holy shit. Sal, are you off of IM entirely now due to ownership? Yeah. I mean, not entirely due to ownership. You can, I mean, this is exactly what any type of DFS or betting is, right? DFS and betting is just all narrative driven based off of what you're seeing lately, right? And then creating a narrative around it. But if you're looking at this from a standpoint of this specific event, yeah, in terms of trending over the last month, a victory, playing better, yeah, IM comes into here good. But there are flaws that can be had to his game. In terms of being a guy who can go out there and get birdies or better, yeah, I mean, relatively similar to everybody else in the field. In terms of where his putter has been over the last couple of months, yeah, it's been up and down. When he's putted well lately, he's finished high, but he's also not putted well lately. Putting surface, all that type of stuff doesn't check out. So when the ownership starts to get high, yeah, those red alarms makes it a lot easier to say, okay, well, this can happen. If 30% of the field is going to think that this guy can't fail, there's ways that he can definitely fail. I'm not trying to come into this format, coming into here, and for this specific DFS event, and understand everything specifically about every fucking tool that these guys have in their golf bag. I don't give a shit, right? I'll take into account to an extent once ownership starts to come into mind. The whole point of trying to win a DFS contest is beating your opponents and scoring more points than them, right? It's not giving a shit about which hybrid the golfer is using that week. You can try and take that and try to analyze that and think about that and like the 2 times that a guy struggles and the 2 times that he doesn't struggle and try and make a decision on what's going to happen this time. That doesn't matter to me when it comes to this specific event, right? Unless it's an actual thing that can be weighted into it. But yeah, like when it comes to Sanjay right now, 150s, yeah, you can get ahead of the field on him, however you want to take it. In 150s, I'd be fine getting ahead of the field. In single entry, like one main lineup that I'm going to be rostering in 3/4 of the stuff that I'm playing, that's where I'm probably going to. Yeah, I was checking out your awesome Excel spreadsheet. Thanks. I'm a rookie at golf. What are some stats that you definitely zone in on first before looking at the rest to get a good base? Thanks, bro. Yeah, so it depends on like what range you want to look at. Like there's short-term, recent form, historical form, long-term form, whatever you want to call it. And what you want to look at is kind of whatever field you want. You can kind of weight both of them. How's the guy trending lately, which can be like his last event round by round, right? Okay, did he blow up? Was it just one hole? Was it pretty consistently playing poor somewhere? Strokes gain numbers in general. So strokes gain approach, strokes gain tee to green. For this type of event, the ability to go low, make birdies. If it is narrower fairways, if you can get in some trouble off the tee, if you're not in the fairway, you're in the rough, right? If it's things like that, well, being able to be accurate, hitting fairways, right? Fairways gained, if you want to talk about good drives on Fantasy National. So, yeah, in terms of the specific sheet, like you're seeing here, these are all strokes gained numbers, and I'll pull them up. These are all strokes gained numbers. You keep scrolling across, you'll see bogey avoidance. You'll see the scoring potential in terms of birdie or better right here. So BOB is birdie or better, which is in the scrambling, which is not as much needed here. If you're scrambling, you're probably in a lot of trouble anyways, based on how big these fairways are. But yeah, par 4 averages, par 5 averages. For something like this, I would say par 5s you're going to want to score on, so looking at that. Thanks, Al. Sanjay swing pisses me off anyway, so I'll happily hop off of him. Okay. Any love for Leishman? Leishman's fine. No strong stance. I have him in the betting market. That's where I like Leishman more. 35-1 is where I was able to get him. I saw bigger numbers out there, but unfortunately could not take them where I am at. So, yeah, Leishman's fine here. Only reason he didn't finish higher last year, he had a fine day tee to green. He lost over 5 strokes putting. His putter is basically been really hot lately, but that is not sustainable, gaining 7 strokes in the last couple of events that we've seen this dude. So I'm not relying on Mark Leishman to go get 7 strokes with the putter. So can something else come alive a little bit? Maybe. Ownership on Leishman. The field likes Mark Leishman, 22%. I mean, that's like fine. Like Gooch and Patrick Reed in that price range will probably be similar to higher owned. So will Kokrak. So like if you're hovering in that upper 7K range where there's not a lot of guys in the 7K range at all, like the 7K range is what, 7 golfers, something like that. Eight golfers. Yeah, I mean, like 4 of those guys will pick up ownership. The guys in the 7K range who won't pick up ownership are probably the ones you haven't considered because for one reason or another they don't look good other than being low owned. Harris English, the winner here last year, oddly enough. Billy Horschel, Kevin Na. Those are probably the 3 dudes who will come in lower owned out of that 7K range. Let's talk betting, Sal. Do you think there's value on Rahm at plus 900 to win? He's at plus 750 on DraftKings, but I can get the 9-1 offshore. Yeah, I'm not really on that. No. Do I think he could win this event as the odds-on favorite, or he's kind of like a co-favorite now? If I pull up the betting board, it seems like JT and Rahm are kind of co-favorites at this point, depending on where you look. And for the most part, like Morikawa, Hovland, Bryson, depending on where you look, you can find all these dudes hovering around 10-1. Yeah, I don't think there's much value on him at 9-1. No. I mean, I know he's the world number one. He could easily not be the world number one this week, depending on what Morikawa wants to do out there. But no, like I don't think there's much value on him at 9-1 in this loaded of a field where it's a no-cut event. Clearly can win at that low of a number. But there's so many dudes under 20-1. I personally am just not going to go all the way up top. Unless you're just firing one bet this week and you have a certain amount of... If you have $100 you're betting on a golfer this week and you only want to bet on one, then I personally still probably hover around the 20-1 range. Maybe even Cantley or Xander in that 15-16-1 range, 14-16. But yeah, I'm probably not going to be going down below 10-1. That's just personally how I bet. There's like one time where I considered it, and it was Bryson at the Rocket Mortgage where he was like 6-1. I didn't place it because just didn't want to go to fucking 6-1 in a 140 golfer field, and Bryson ended up winning the fucking thing. Best of luck, and thanks for all the great content. I appreciate that, Joe. Appreciate that. Anybody going to punt on Phil Mickelson? I personally am not in my single entry. I not. I won 33 off of a $25 bet on NBA last night. $8. I'm rich as Chase. Chase, what's up, boss man? How you doing? Gooch or Leishman, both should come in pretty similarly owned. I'll go to Gooch. I have an outright on Leishman, but I'll go to Gooch in DFS. Finau, answer or read. Last man in a small pool. I'll go Finau there. Good question, Frank. Also good question to my man Rob in the chat. Somebody asked about prize picks. Yeah, I was waiting to hear back, but after I thought about it more, I think that I know the answer. So I was waiting to hear back on over-under for finishing place. I assume if they say, like, Rahm to finish 7th in the whole tournament, this is not round by round, by the way, on prize picks, which it's just a player prop site. If you want to take it or use the code GOLF, you'll get a free bet up to $100. But I assume that if somebody in the chat can verify or try to verify this, if it's under 7, right? Like if we're saying Rahm finishes under 7, we're meaning that in a positive way that he's finishing within the top 6, right, to win this bet. That's what I assume. If not, their wording is completely off. But I was waiting to hear back on that because obviously you get some pretty damn good numbers on guys down here. Now, with prize picks, you have to correlate them. You can't just take one. But you have a Finau, you have a Brooks down there, only having to finish top 15. We just saw Brooks in a very small field, half the size of this, finish in the top half, which is basically what you would have to do there, hovering around 15th. You have fantasy scoring, you have fairways hit. Fairways hit's an interesting one. This is just for the round. On a course where you're going to see it very easy to hit the fairways, I mean, you're getting some guys who are pretty accurate, right? Some guys who are pretty accurate off the tee. I mean, Morikawa, very accurate off the tee. That's why his is 12.5. But you're getting some guys who are pretty accurate off the tee, like not terrible, at just like 11 or 10.5 on these very wide fairways. So I think that it's interesting. I think that it's interesting that we're getting these types of numbers on like a Rahm, right? You're getting Rahm at over under 11 fairways hit. Of course, that's more than half of them, but that's just kind of the way that this sets up. You have a Decky on here. You have Morikawa. 12.5 for Morikawa is crazy. I remember last year or in beginning of 2021 when golf was coming back at a break, I think it was Answer hit like all 18 fairways and still fucking lost. I had no clue about the Golf Channel until just now. The Golf Betting Network? Yeah, this is a new endeavor. This is the first week of content on the channel. Yes, this is the first week of content on the channel. Do you like the Sanjay swim or hate it too? So what I was basically looking at was final finishing spot and fairway hit. Like birdie or better also looks good just because for a place like this, there's going to be birdie getters, but I like that number more when we have the whole slate on a no-cut event of all 4 rounds and not necessarily just one round. Because when we have all 4 rounds, it's pretty. You get a sample of information on how these guys are looking on this course after one round, right? But we don't get that, unfortunately. So I'm probably going to be looking at fairways hit. We could take something during the stream. A combination of fairways hit and finishing place for the whole tournament. You get some really good numbers on finishing place. Like you're getting Cantley at 10.5. That feels pretty fucking good. You're getting a combination of Brooks and Finau at 15 to finish in the top 15 for, Finau, who's 20-1, 25-1 on some sites to win this thing. Cantley, who's 14-1 to finish within the top 10. You're getting solid numbers here from these guys. Hey, Sal, can you tell me one golfer you really, really like and one you really, really want to stay away from? I really, really like Jon Rahm. I thought he was going to be higher owned, but he's not. A golfer that I'm probably going to end up staying away from is Sanjay. Sanjay at about 30% ownership coming in at. I can point to flaws in the game that can be concerning here. And, yeah, Berger is at high ownership, but I think that high ownership is warranted. I do think that Berger is $1,000 underpriced. I don't think that Sanjay is $1,000 underpriced. I think he's trending in a decent direction in some weaker fields lately. But there's still some question marks around his putting on these types of surfaces. So I think that is your concern. So I would say that I really, really like Rahm, and one that I'm having some pause on and staying away from due to ownership is Sanjay M. That's where I'm at. What's going on, Sal? How do you feel about Cam Smith this week? Is the chalk warranted? Yeah, I think it's like if you're asking me about guys who are going to be chalky. So like the top 5 owned guys for me: Berger, Im, Burns, Cam Smith, and Xander. I would say that Burns and Im are the two that give me hesitation. I would say that Berger and Smith and Xander are guys that I'd be okay to eat the chalk on. Now that being said, not all in one lineup. That being said, I'd be pretty damn cautious of what the rest of your lineup looks like. Like if you want to play one guy at 26% ownership, 30% ownership in a 38 golfer field, yeah, there's no reason why. Like what do I have here? In terms of guys who I have 25% owned or higher, I've got like 9 guys projecting out for 24% ownership or higher. In a 38-person field, odds are a couple of them are going to finish top 10, right? Or top 15 and be in the chance to be in a winning lineup. So I'm not going to turn a blind eye to the fact that these higher owned guys in this small of a field have a higher hit rate than if there was a cut event with 150 golfers. So I'm cautious of that, which is why I think that Berger and Cam Smith and Xander are okay at their ownership. I just want to make sure my overall total lineup isn't getting up there in terms of the ownership in it. What do we got? I don't know anything about fantasy golf, but Sal will educate me. Happy to help, sir. I know golf and golf knows me, says Zay. What's up, Zay? How you doing, boss man? I'm building 2 lineups, one with JT and the other with Morikawa. Sounds good, man. Sal, you play golf at all? I started playing about a year ago and fell in love, man. Yeah, I started to I went golfing twice. So I've been golfing like 4 times in my life, but I hadn't gone all throughout college. I went golfing twice last year. It was absolutely brutal. Started going to the driving range a bunch, but then I moved. And during the whole move and not having like a spot to go to every time and just, driving to Texas over a couple of days and getting all situated, I just haven't been to the driving range as much. I need to get lessons from like a PGA pro. When I went twice last year, I was just terrible. I was terrible, right? Couldn't even think about taking out driver. I had no shot. I had no shot at putting the ball in the air. Maybe 1 out of every 4 swings, I put the fucking ball in the air with driver. Had no control of it. Iron play was a little bit better, but that being said, it was a little bit better compared to what the driving was. I just need to get some lessons, a couple lessons, make sure I'm not throwing my back out. Something to start with. But yeah, I enjoyed it so much. I enjoyed the atmosphere with 3 of my buddies who were out there just golfing the entire day. I just sucked. I was chasing my balls. I was looking for the balls in the wood. I was going through a whole fucking dozen balls that I brought. Terrible. First live 2022 of golf. Yes, it is. Klein, what's up, boss man? Sal, in a single entry tournament of 1,300 people, who would you prioritize? 1,300 people, you don't have to get too off the board, right? I'd not like specifically who would I prioritize. I mean, leverage plays, yeah, but I would mainly just try and get different. 1,300 people, get different in at least 2 spots, maybe 3. If you leave some money on the table, you can get away with getting different in 2 spots. That's probably what I would be trying to do. So it's okay to play some of these guys. If you really like them and you're emotionally attached to them and you're ready to rock and roll with them, just make sure you're getting different in 1 to 2 spots. Which pump play will pay off the biggest? EVR? Yeah, EVR is... Nobody's really talking about him at all, including myself. In terms of pump plays, I think EVR is in play. Matt Jones is not set up well here at all, but he's going to be like 4% owned. Doesn't set up here all well. Like he has no approach play since basically like the last fucking time that he won, which was a year ago, I think, at this point. Actually, what did he win? Did he win the Honda? So, EVR, Joel Damon, Cam Davis, Power, Max Homa, those are guys who stand out. I just can't really get onto Kisner or Sink, even at what's going to be lower ownership, just because guys around them will also be lower owned. I'm not totally against, I'm not really on Higo. I'm not totally against Brendan Grace either, though. What do we got? Don't know much about Gyalf, but let's go. Let's go, boss man. Let's go. What's going on, PJ? What's going on, my man? Michael in the chat. Ryan Allison in the chat. Kunith in the chat. Kunath, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. My MMA guy in the Discord comes in with the big old Gyalf. We love to see it. I know nothing about golf, but Sal will educate me. Okay. Happy to help. Happy to help. Happy to help, sir. Full fade burger, somebody says. You ain't on them burgers? All right. Let's pull this up. So if your picks place 1 through 6 in your lineup, is that a guaranteed dub? What's the ballpark average of points first place usually gets? 575 to 625, trying to get a feel for it. Yeah, it depends on the tournament. When there's no cuts and you can go low like you'll be able to on this one, there'll be a lot more birdies. There's going to be a lot more high scoring. If you get the top 6 golfers in the placing at this type of an event, yeah, odds are you're securing dubs. Yeah. In order, which is like an insane way to get them, right? Like, yeah, you're gonna secure dubs. Now, that's not always the case because some guys will finish 14th in the event and 6th in fantasy scoring, 7th in fantasy scoring, right? Especially on a no-cut event because they ended up securing an eagle, maybe 2 eagles, right? They ended up getting a couple of birdie streaks. Birdie streaks on DraftKings scoring count as extra points, right? You get 3 birdies in a row. You're getting a birdie streak. You're getting an eagle. And even though you finish 14th because you're finishing 16 under instead of 18 under or 19 under, you have those extra 10 points for your eagles. You have those extra points for your birdie streaks. Overall, in general, maybe you have more birdies, which you're going to have more birdies, but more birdies that pile up towards your later rounds, and you can start to pile on the scoring. Yeah, so it's not always the case, but yeah, if you're going to finish like 1 through 6, even if you have 6 of the top 10, yeah, you're going to be in a really good spot. It's way more chill in here than NFL Live. Those guys can be animals, I tell you. Yeah, there's just more people. There's more people, obviously, NFL viewership-wise, media-wise, marketing-wise. It's a bigger product, but I'm actually really excited that there's 120 people watching this bad boy live. Cam Davis or Joel Damon? Thanks, Sal. Joel Damon, I'll say Cam Davis for a fraction of the ownership. I'll say Cam Davis for a fraction of the ownership. Thoughts on Burns and Cantlay? I prefer Cantlay. Both are great. Obviously, Burns trending in the right direction. Looks fucking fantastic. Can potentially become a top 10 player in the world this year. Securely. Yeah. What do you think about Power for 3,800 person single entry? Seems fine. I would say he's definitely skewed because of the fields that he's been playing in lately and when he's won. But I think he's fine. Yeah, he's not like a high ownership number that I'm trying to jump off of. Are you trying to use as much salary as you can for single entry, or are you leaving some? It depends on what the overall lineup's going to be. Most of the time, I try and leave some money on the table. If you're leaving like 300, you're going to be pretty good. On these 40-person events, though, it's tough to like leave money on the table because there's only a couple guys in the 7K range, right? The 6K range isn't as deep with options and spread apart salaries. So if my lineup is unique enough, like if I know I'm getting away from some high-owned guys, then I don't need to get to as much of that range. Like I don't need to get to as much of the leave $700 on the table like an NFL or like a showdown slate on NFL. So I don't love spending $50,000 overall, but if my total lineup ownership is well below average, then I'm okay to do it. Especially on the smaller slates, right? 38 options to choose from instead of 150 like most events. It's kind of difficult to get to a spot where you can actively leave money on the table because maybe there's only a couple of pivot options in each range. Sal, I'm in a 3 max under 3K entries, jamming ROM in all 3, says Daniel Pope. Yeah, I think that's fine. I have no issues with that. The fucking best player in the world, the best player in the field. I don't see a reason to hate that. Yeah. EVR top South African, somebody says. Sounds good. Is he the only South African in the field? I only saw bets for, let's see. one or two. I think one or two nationalities outside of top American, top Asian, and top, which I have bets on both of them, Australian. Do you ever play tiers on DK? Yeah, I get this question sometimes. I like 2 or 3 years ago, I did it for a little while on NBA. Like a little while, I mean like a week on NBA. It's okay. It's a different format. I'm not like against it. I'm just not as intrigued by it. Like the puzzle of a salary cap based sport like DFS is much more appealing to me than just who scores the most points in this tier. Obviously, there's a part of it being ownership based in the GPP, but yeah, I'm not to the same like appeal to me personally. Thoughts on Billy Horschel? Yeah, I think he's solid. 7K flat this week. I think Billy Horschel is solid. Yeah. He's like one of the only dudes in the 7K range, and he happens to be the cheapest one of them. He's kind of at that 7K flat price range, which is flat price principle, where people are just going, I can get a better value in the 6K range, or 7K flat, I can get extra production for a little bit more. So usually when you see guys at that flat price range in any DFS sport, other examples would be, let's see, John Rahm at 11K flat, although that is specifically due to, really for this, it's only going to be guys at like 9, 8, or 7K flat. So 8K flat, Tony Finau coming in with lower ownership, right? 7K flat, Billy Horschel. Nobody is at 9K flat, unfortunately, for this slate. But those guys who are at that flat salary pricing, it's the reason why stores price things at $3.99. The flat price principle is a real fucking thing. Yes, he won the Honda. All right, cool. That's what I thought. Who's your favorite guy under 7K as a last man into a lineup? So in the 7K range, and I can actually take out Mr. Cam Champ out of this. Bada bing, bada bang. So under 7K. So in the 6K range, I think that the guys who stand out to me the most in the 6K range are Homa, Cam Davis, EVR, and Joel Damon. If forced to pick a fifth, I'd probably just punt to the bottom. And out of Jones, Kisner, Sink, and Glover, I'd probably take Glover, but none of those dudes look appealing to me. So that's what stands out down there. Now, I know you asked for one specific guy, so it kind of depends on how much money you have left over. If you have exactly 7K left over, you might as well leave a little bit extra on the table. Like I don't see that big of a difference in this event from like a Max Homa or Joel Damon. Like overall for the season, yeah, I'll take my chips on Max Homa having more top 20 finishes, having more win potential, being in contention on the final day on Sundays, right? But for this no-cut event, I don't see much of a difference there if you're going to get to leave a couple extra $100 on the table too. What's your thoughts on Finau? He's been playing bad the last few times out, but could be leverage with him. Yeah, there's definitely leverage with Finau in this event. To start the week off, I really wasn't that at all interested in Finau. Once the odds first came out, I saw Finau 28-1, and I was like, wow, that kind of feels good for how this course kind of sets up. You look into it a little bit more and how he's playing lately, and I mean, the guy just doesn't have a putter as of late. Like, we haven't seen him much, right? We haven't seen him now in almost 2 months. Well, on like an actual tour event at the Houston Open where he missed the cut. But he hasn't had a putter since the Tour Championship in September, right? Even then he didn't have a putter. BMW the week before. So that's your concern. And yeah, I mean, like the one thing that's going to take people out of contention quick here is not being able to hit their 3 to 5 to 6 foot putts, not be able to pick up birdies when everybody else is, and going par when everybody's going birdie or eagle. That's what's going to hurt people. That's what hurt Sungjae Im last year. It's probably the only reason he didn't win this event last year. A guy who led the field in tee to green and lost strokes putting. 3 strokes putting. Mark Leishman finished 24th or somewhere, 24th in T24, and he lost over 5 strokes putting, right? So that's your concern with Finau. That's why he's probably lower owned, because those putting outings over the last couple of rounds, even though the ball striking in tee to green play has still been solid, it's leading to these finishes of a missed cut, 45th at Mayakoba in the CJ Cup, a smaller field. So I think it's going to lead to Tony Finau if we pull up his range at 8K flat. That, along with the fact that he's $8,000 flat and right around Tony Finau, is Patrick Reed at 7,900 people are running to him. Literally everybody else, Sungjae, Cam Smith, Berger, in that 8K range, people are running to. The low-owned guys in the 8K range that have nice leverage are going to be Brooks Koepka, Tony Finau, and Abe Ancer. Abe Ancer doesn't, like, his strengths are the fact that he's so damn accurate. Abe Ancer is not set up well here, right? But it's not like every single person who has won this event has won it with a specific skill set. a lot of them have, right? The guys who have won have had the ability to have some distance and have elite iron play at that time. JT, in the past, guys who have finished highly here, Jordan Spieth, Xander when he's been clicking. Obviously, Harris English last year's a little bit of a different story. So, yeah, and I don't need Abe Answer to win. So, Abe Answer, Finau sets up nicely here in terms of the ball striking if he can get the putter going. So does Brooks, right? But Abe Answer is not going to set up well here. He's not going to pick up ownership. That's what makes me look at him a little bit more. And I don't need the dude to win at 8,100. Right? You can finish 7th for me and just avoid a lot of mistakes, which is Abe Answer's kind of his calling card, right? Roll in a couple of eagles since he's got the strong putter, and you go from there. So, yeah, you're not going to get anywhere near the distance on Abe. Abe Answer might have the worst distance in this entire field. I think he does over his last 50 rounds, 38th out of what is now on this sheet, 38 golfers. So, yeah, his game is not going to set up here. But in terms of your overall distance, yeah, I mean, you can say somewhat similar things about Berger. Berger just has some of the strongest irons play, probably top 5 in irons over the last 50 rounds. Sal, what lineup structure with Rahm and 3-max do you suggest? Stars and scrubs are balanced? Yeah, usually this question leads to having to go to stars and scrubs. On this slate, where there's so many strong options in the 8K range, you can get to more of a balanced approach. I would say balanced. He's $11,000, so it's not going to be easy to just play Rahm with everybody like Bryson and somebody else, right? You don't have that type of money to spend. But yeah, I mean, $11,000 Jon Rahm, there's no reason you can't attack the 9K range or the 8K range still. So I think picking up a guy in each range maybe, or yeah, you can still go balance. You're going to have to touch the 6K range if you have Rahm in your lineup, unless you're just loading up on the 7K range, right? I like my players, but the lowest I can get for total lineup ownership was 126. Is this still too high for the type of tournament? So you're saying that your average owned player in your lineup is 21% owned then, right? 126%. 21% owned. I think I'm going to see what some of my total lineup ownership numbers are looking like. 21% per player, 38-person field. I mean, that is kind of high. I would say that's kind of high. My ownership, I'm hovering around 100. So 15% per player. 21% is not terrible, especially in smaller fields. If you're talking about the big contest, that big main contest, 100K to first, however many golfers or however many contestants are in that, 21% is the borderline of too much. I'd feel more comfortable around 18%, which isn't that much. It's just kind of switching one guy. What optimizer do you use? I have my own optimizer on Patreon. There's a link down below. If you want to use or try out Patreon, you can. It's linked. I'll throw the link into the chat. I have ownership projections, my GPP rankings, which factor in the ownership and the leverage scores, key stats database, Discord access, and optimizer. So if you're interested in that, you can check it out. That is on the Patreon, which is... Depends on which package you want. If you want the optimizer, you can get it in here, but this is all the stuff that's offered in the golf stuff, right? Bada bing, bada bang. Optimizer, all that. So you can check that out if you're interested. But yeah, there is an optimizer not only for golf, but for NFL, for MMA, for NBA, optimizers for all that. So yeah, got you covered, boss man. Got you covered. What about Higo? Yeah, I honestly haven't been on Higo much. Any thoughts? Dirt cheap. There's 38 golfers in the field, so I guess I should have a strong stance on all of them. I think I have a strong stance on probably half of them, and then just a meh stance on some of them. A strong stance either way, I should say, for or against it. There's just really not much of a stance that I have for Higo. Since winning Palmetto, we haven't seen anything, right? We've seen one week at the Rocket Mortgage where his around the green play showed some life, but that was about it. So I just don't really have a stance. Cheap, no-cut event. Could he post the 27th and be with it for you? Sure, but out of all the dudes in the 6K range, you're going to see somebody in the 6K range finish top 20 and probably top 15 in DFS scoring, and you're going to need that guy. I'll bank on it being other guys other than Higo. Thanks, Sal. Salute to the new year. Salute to the new year. We are 45 minutes or so away from lock. So let's get it. John, EVR is a golfer, I think. Yes, it is. Eric Van Rooyen. Who's your pick to win? I got Spieth. So I don't have any one and done starting yet. So I don't technically have a one and done. That's going to start next week for all the one and done fantasy golf championship Mayos thing. I'll probably join Rick's thing. So I don't have a one and done selected. So in terms of my outright odds, I took Sanjay 22. I'll pull up my bets. I have Sanjay 22 to 1. I have Leishman 35 to 1. There were better Leishman numbers out there. I could not bet them, unfortunately, for where I'm located. And then I took bomb numbers on Damon and Matt Jones. Matt Jones is not set up well here at all. I just saw the 150 to 1 and I said, fuck it. I'm going to take Matt Jones for somebody who paid me off when he won last year. So this is my card. This is my betting card right now. So Homa FRL is first round leader, 40 to 1. Then Berger to beat Hovland, Leishman to beat Finau. Top Asian Sanjay, top Aussie Leishman. So that's my card. Now, who do I actually think wins versus trying to get the value on these numbers on Sanjay and Leishman is a different story, right? Who do I actually think wins? That's where I start to factor in Xander / Cantley. Like that type of range is where I would probably lean for a one and done for this event. Xander or Cantley if I was to use a one and done. Who are your favorite guys tonight, says John. Yeah, give me some options. Give me some options, my man. I mean, there's some top GPP plays for sure in terms of leverages, which is what I posted here. If you're looking for the leverage. But this doesn't mean play these three dudes. Like they have a lower chance to, well, not Rahm. Rahm has a high chance, but like Finau and Brooks have a lower chance to be in optimal lineups than some other guys around them. Those other guys, though, are coming in with 10 to 15 to, in Brooks' case, maybe 20% more ownership. Sal, love you're doing this golf network. Always follow you for NFL. I appreciate you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm excited for this. Yeah, it's going to start with like my normal content. We're going to try maybe as soon as next week. I did a show, a quick 10 to 15 minute show with Keith Stewart, who's a PGA pro. He has his own little newsletter and his own little YouTube channel that he's doing well on. It's awesome. We're going to try and maybe incorporate it if we can figure out how to set up the show to have a weekly show on the Golf Betting Network. But I'm excited for it to brand it this way. Because it allows me kind of the access to be like the creator, which is what I've been on my main channel. But since it's not the Sal Vetri YouTube channel and it's the Golf Betting Network, I can like take a break at points, right? In terms of catch my breath. Like when you're a creator and you have to kind of go nonstop to keep the momentum on the YouTubes, it becomes difficult to keep up with the work life at times and gets a little crazy. Branding this as a network allows me over time, not immediately, not jumping right into the deep end, but over time bringing on other personalities that make sense, building up a budget for this network to put towards those personalities and the equipment that they need. And then, hey, maybe this time next year, I could be doing 2 shows a week and not the 4 or 5 shows a week and have other personalities and other people to help me. So that's why it's branded as a network, which is interesting and fun. And it's going to be a lot of fun this year. I'm excited. Are you going to continue to go live before lock on regular schedule? Will you do it Wednesday nights? That's a big question mark. The answer is maybe. I wish, I said it in the Discord earlier, I wish these events, and if you're not a Discord Patreon member, come on in there. I wish these events were a little bit more friendly, but that's just how golf is, right? You're in the morning anytime you're in, the East Coast gets a little bit better, but anytime you are in the States, that's what you're going to get. So, yeah, we get these 2 primetime weeks, back-to-back weeks. Big events like majors, there's only one real WGC, I guess technically 2, but majors, yeah, I'll be going live. But we'll see as we work into it. We'll see. I would like to go live, but we'll kind of have to see. Have you touched on Reed versus Smith? Can't get myself up to Smith. Then, yeah, I think Reed's fine. I saw some people have Reed. Somebody asked me in the Discord that Reed is coming in at 40% owned. I personally don't see that. I have him at 25%, which is upper end, but not like awful, but upper end. Between Reed and Smith, I'll go with Cam Smith, but not that strong either way. Do you like Kokrak or Leishman more? I'll say Kokrak. Earlier in the week it was Leishman. I'll say Kokrak now. All right. Aaron Rodgers does golf, so it's the promo. So is the promo transferable? You only get the promo once if you're a first-time depositor, unless you know somebody else who will sign you up for them. But Aaron Rodgers does golf. Is the promo transferable? Yeah, shout out Aaron Rodgers, right? The golf. Sal's the best overall content available. I appreciate that. Yeah, any feedback that you guys have, let me know. Some people didn't like the betting video this week, which definitely was interesting to edit together. It was Mayo, Andy, and Joe. And since this event started a little bit earlier, in terms of being able to get the odds a day or two out. I wanted to test out ways to get consistent guests because having to put out a betting video on a Tuesday morning, right? So the event fucking starts Thursday morning. So get a day out of it or two becomes difficult for people when Monday normally is when all the odds come out. They're doing all their content, their stuff, getting ready. There's a difficult timeline and quick turnaround to interview 1 to 3 people to come onto the show, edit that all together, and get it scheduled out for the next day. It's a very quick turnaround. And I want to have multiple guests. So having them send me in clips and trying to edit it together definitely was interesting. There's something there with the format, but it's a lot time consuming on the editing side and obviously not as organic without the banter. For those asking about ESPN Plus and golf, the new partnership starts today. They will have Hala and Koepka as the featured group and number 14 as the featured hole. They only have one featured hole. Maybe we'll get more once they're out of Hawaii. 20 is on TV from 6 to 10 p.m. Eastern time. That's right, primetime golf. Thank you, Rob. Thank you for that details. Any news that may change the slate? I usually don't change my lineup unless I got some type of news. I mean, Cam Champ was ruled out, but that was a good amount of time ago. Somebody wants to build a lineup. I mean, yeah. We can build a lineup out here. We've been live for what? We've been live for almost an hour. That's pretty damn cool. You guys want to build out a lineup? We can, like, in terms of building out like a highly leveraged lineup, I feel like everybody's going to go ahead and try and play this lineup. Go for it, I guess. I don't know. Don't want to, yeah. I mean, like, if you're trying to build out leveraged lineups, I mean, just starting like with players like this. Like if you're starting with Brooks, and I mean, Answer literally driving wise sets up the worst in this field, but ownership wise, like if you're going to start a lineup with this, in most contests, you're probably going to already be unique, right? You're getting probably the 2 lowest owned guys in the 8K range. I would say, I mean, maybe Hideki's in that range, but I would say Brooks and Answer are the lowest owned guys in the 8K range. The range that is the highest total ownership, they have a little bit of an advantage as there's just more guys there than the 10K range and the 9K range. But yeah, I mean, starting a lineup like this is going to make you unique. Like you can do whatever else you want after this. You can play other studs. I guess you can just build an 8K range lineup though, right? Like I'm looking at this now, money wise. You can literally just build the 8K range lineup. How about that? You can play every fucking dude in the 8K range. Look at that. You could leave Sanjay, a guy who is Sanjay and Spieth are the only guys you wouldn't be able to fit, but that's fine. This is kind of funny. I guess you can get to Sanjay if you went off of Berger and went up to Spieth off of Hideki, which is interesting, right? I mean, you could just build an 8 fucking K lineup. I don't think, even though these dudes are highly owned, like even though Sanjay and Cam Smith and Spieth to an extent, not really, even though these dudes are going to pick up ownership, you can just build the fucking 8K lineup. Like, it's interesting because some dudes are going to pick up ownership, but in a 38-person field, guys who are owned are still solid plays. It's just a matter of not getting all of them together. That's funny. So yeah, you could build the 8K. So somebody said, let's build a lineup. There you go. There's a little bit of a gimmick for you, but how often does just one price range win the slate? If it ever does, it has to be the 8K range. The 9K range is too expensive. I doubt the 7K range ever has enough producers. Interesting. Interesting type of build for sure there. I like that. That's a funny type of build. Love this. Excited for golf, says The Driven. I appreciate that. Yeah, and by the way, if people are brand new to the content, I don't know if you're like just finding me and not through my own channel. Maybe you found me through Twitter. Hit the subscribe button here in the Golf Betting Network. I think that we are like 100 away from 1,000 subscribers already, which is, I was not expecting to get there anywhere close to the first event. We're at 885. I think there's like 100 people in here. Let's see if we can get to 900. That'd be kind of cool. So if you're not already subscribed to the Golf Betting Network, we are 15 away from 900. So let's see if we can get this number to 900 by the end of the stream. It took me about 3 months on my first YouTube channel to get to 1,000 subscribers. This is the 3rd day of the Golf Betting Network, or I guess the 4th day, and we're almost there. So we're making progress, huh? Is this a big enough tournament for Brooks to care? Not really, but like I don't need Brooks to win at his price tag. If Brooks comes out there, has an eagle, finishes top 10, he can get it done at 8,500 at low ownership. Oh boy, I almost just broke my whole fucking thing. I love to see Rahm crush it this weekend or Bryson dismantle the course with his distance and take it down. Yeah, those are my 2 favorite 10K and above guys, Bryson and Rahm. Great branding, bro. What do you mean? Just like the graphics on the screen? Thanks. Working on some other branding stuff too. Are you leaving a lot of salary on the table this week? Not as much as I usually do. There's only 38 golfers, so it's kind of hard to purposely try and pivot for salary reasons. I just kind of like other guys. Like there's a lot of guys who are picking up high ownership that honestly look good, but like the difference between Sanjay being 30% owned and Finau being like 18 to 20% owned, I don't think there's that much difference on a no-cut event at 38 or 38 players for there to be like a 10 to 15% ownership difference, right? So it like the biggest way you will make money in DFS golf is just by, in a smart way, not just blindly playing low-owned guys, but not being emotionally attached. Like as little emotionally attached to players as you can be. And like with football, it's difficult because if you consume like 5 pieces of content in the week and everybody's saying the same thing, it makes it seem like that's the best play in the world. And they might be a good play for a cash game. But when you bring it into a GPP landscape, that exact reason why they're good playing cash games means that they're not. They don't have as high of a ceiling. Their ownership is not worth it, right? So like if you can turn off your brain and back on for this event to start your research today and see the guys who are at high ownership, you would not have anywhere near as much interest as on Sunday when you started to hear about those guys, right? It's the whole anchoring bias. It's a real fucking thing. Human psychology, the big old brain in your heads, in my head as well, although mine's probably a lot smaller than yours, that is easily influenced by first available information, right? Out of the top tier guys, do you have Thomas taking the most ownership? I have Hovland. If you're talking 10K and above, I have Hovland as the... I have Thomas and Hovland coming in basically as a split. So, yes to your answer, but also Hovland's right there. Garrett Higgo season, somebody says Matthew P. Sounds good. In a 4K person contest, single entry, should I leave more than $400 on the table? I think you're fine with 400, even 300. When building lineups, do you start at the top of the price range or the bottom? Good question. I kind of identify where the leverage is, so I didn't start building any lineups until 3 or 4 hours ago. So I'll identify where the leverage is and kind of find the best golfer there. So like this week, it was just perfect scenario. John Rahm was the biggest leverage play in the slate as of a couple hours ago, probably still is. And he's the biggest leverage play in the slate. And you now combine that with the fact that he just looks fucking good. So yeah, when I can get a guy like John Rahm as the biggest leverage play in the slate who has arguably the highest ceiling on the slate, yeah, I'll end up going there. So in terms of like where do I start building my lineups, I usually tend to try and go more balanced, and then when more information comes out, I'll adjust for that. So I'll tend to try and go more balanced just because, I mean, 6K guys are 6K guys for a reason. So I'll tend to hit one guy in the upper 10K range or two guys in the 9K range. But the information on the slate kind of helps through that. The fact that there's not as many 7K guys on this slate makes it really difficult to kind of combine. Like I would like to have a lineup that combines Bryson and Rahm as my main lineup. I just found it really difficult to get there. Thanks for the help. Appreciate you, my man. I appreciate you as well, Sam. Appreciate you as well. All right, gang, we've been live for a whole goddamn hour. A whole goddamn hour on the Golf Betting Network's first live stream. This is fun. Is Jamar Chase-like explosion possible in golf? Is a Jamar Chase-like explosion? Probably not that far. I mean, if somebody wins by, John Rahm dominating before he had to leave the Players last year because of COVID, like if somebody's just walking away with it and they're making an extra... If they're winning first place for those extra placement points and they're making an extra, who knows, 6 birdies, an extra eagle in the event, that's kind of like their quote-unquote explosion, but it's not going to be to the level of like a Jamar Chase. Like wide receivers ceilings in NFL is probably the highest ceiling. I mean, centers in NBA, like athletic centers in NBA also have a pretty high ceiling, or more so like power forward hybrid guys. But those are like the dudes. Like in the NBA, when I hold teams out, like vintage James Harden when he was on the Rockets and the whole team is out and Harden has all the usage, that in like a wide receiver who's getting a lot of volume and downfield targets like a Jamar Chase has been this year, those dudes' ceilings are like the highest that you'll find. Mobile quarterbacks in the NFL to an extent. But that's kind of where it comes into play. Alrighty, gang. Let's get some final questions in, and then I'm going to bounce. This tournament starts in about 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and yeah, we'll have 4 rounds of, sadly, we don't have to worry about a cut. In the future, I would like to do some cut stuff. Get cut, get butt. But, yeah. Say hello to me, mister. What's going on? What's going on, Chase? How you doing, boss man? How are you? Hideki's ownership. I got him at 16%, so about average ownership. Not bad. I heard Hovland's clubs were lost. Not sure if they were found. They did arrive, yes. Do you think this will be an issue? Practice, golf is physical, very mental. Hovland has won an event so far in the past year. And more recent than that, he has won an event in the past with somebody else's driver, I believe. His clubs are there. I think he's fine. Thomas or DeChambeau, I'll go Bryson. What conditions preferred lies being played? PGA Tour Comms just tweeted it out. Someone is going low. Oh, baby. We're getting some preferred lies. We'll love to hear that. We'd love to hear that. Thoughts on Billy Horschel? 7K flat. He's going to be relatively lower owned. Billy Horschel in the 7K range. We'll get some final chats in right now. On a 7K range that is not filled with many guys, I think Horschel is a top 2 option for me in that range. Maybe top 3. Golfers deal with travel adversity every week. Won't/shouldn't affect Hovland. Yeah, he's got his clubs too. So, are you going to the Austin tourney? Yeah, so the Dell is in Austin. It is the WGC here. I would like to, but unfortunately, I will not. Unfortunately, I'm actually very fortunate and happy. I will be in Mexico during that event. So in terms of putting out content, I don't even know if there'll be content. I'll see if somebody can maybe fill in on the channel. But yeah, I'll be in Mexico for that event. I'll be getting back Saturday, so technically I could go for the final day, and it'll kind of be a play it by ear if I'm feeling it. Traveling back from Mexico might be a little much. But yeah, for the Dell in March, San Antonio, there's an event, I think the week after or before. So maybe I'll go to that one, or I'll go to the Houston, which is later in the year, or Dallas. Yeah, I'll go to some event. Austin would have been the easiest down the fucking road for me, but I will not be around. Alrighty, gang. Thank you for tuning in today. I appreciate you all a ton for being here. You all rock. This is the Golf Betting Network. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, be sure to subscribe. And if you want to use the code GOLF over on prizepicks.com, you get a free bet up to $100. They're presenting sponsor of the show. You take player props. It's another nice way to get a sweat on the game, on the event. Even if the first round is over, you can get back in here for round 2. You can take the over-unders on fairways hit, on greens and regulations, on birdies or better per round. So you can come back in not just from game 1, run up those winnings if you want to, chase your fucking losses like we all do. Have a good time. So, yes. Just keep in mind this is round 1. 15 fairways. 15 fairways, right? It's going to take out your par 3s here. So makes it a little bit different to hit 11. That's a pretty high number, which fairways hit here is pretty high already. So if you use the code GOLF on prizepicks.com, you'll get your first bet if you deposit, matched up to $100. So you can get a free bet, potentially up to $100. So thank you. Thank you for supporting the channel. Appreciate y'all being here. Best of luck. The first week of golf is here. Relax. Let your shoulders lean. Take your shoes off. Enjoy the rest of your day. When you win the dollar, Ruski's telling me that golf will translate this, right? And golf, the big old A. Whole bunch of A's and W's knows you. Peace out, gang. I appreciate y'all being here. Peace out, gang. The end screen is hidden. The end screen is hidden. So we got to hit up one of these bad boys.